Well, it's always a pleasure to be having you here on KC2. This is Purpose Rwanda show for Purposeful and addiction-free Rwanda. As always, I'm Adams Kwizera, and today I can say he's a special guest, and he has been for us in Purpose Rwanda for many years back, and he's Jean Makara.
Yes.
Jean Makara,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm always excited to come to Purpose Rwanda because they're doing great work
Sure.
in Rwanda. And I feel privileged, really, to be given a platform, to be given a few minutes of exchange. So it's a joy to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Who's Jean Makara? In brief.
Well, who is Jean Makara? Interesting. So Jean Makara is a Rwandan. That's first. He's a Christian minister and brother, of course, but also a trainer. I do a lot of training as part of my work. Sure. An entrepreneur as well. I own a couple of businesses in Rwanda. And I think that would be all.
Sure.
A Rwandan, Christian minister, and maybe trainer and entrepreneur. That would be
I think you explained briefly your background.
Yes, absolutely.
I need to know your relationship with Purpose Rwanda.
Oh, so a couple of, I think this is a couple of years ago, or maybe 3 years ago to be precise. I was a president, leader of a team called the Watchman Group. And this is a group of Christian professionals, Christian men. And really the purpose of us creating this group was really, we want to galvanize around young people. But then we realized these young people were rapidly growing into men, into men. These people were marrying. In fact, I think when we started the group, we were about 8 people or 10 people who were both all singles and searching. And I think in a matter of 2 years, all of them were married. All of them were busy doing different things. So basically, we wanted to embrace the Christ-like values and embody the Christ-like character. And then take that into our office, bring this into our home, and everywhere we go. And then, so in the process, I met Bruno Agaba, who is, I think, executive director, if I'm not mistaken, maybe country lead. So he was with me, one of the co-founders of the Watchman Group. He said, you know what, I want you to come and visit this place. I wanted to go. He really didn't tell me exactly what it was all about. When I got there, I was mesmerized.
It was in which year?
It was, I think it was about, it's not up to 5, around 4 years ago. It was around 4 years ago.
Approximately, say like 2020 or
2019, I think, 2019,
Sure.
early 2019. So when I got to Purpose Rwanda, I met Charles Anyama. I met all these transformational leaders that you find at Purpose Rwanda. I delved deep into the work they do in Rwanda, and I was really, really shocked at this low-key sort of organization doing this, having this massive impact on the youth, fighting against delinquency and, of course, addictions, drug, and other related.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's how we came together, and we decided, you know what, I can use my strength, you use your strength together, we can hopefully, do something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, that's Jean Makara, who is going to be with us in today's program, on today's episode, as we are going to reiterate on this topic of overcoming fear. Makara, in brief, what is fear? Because even you will differentiate this thing. Some people confuse fear and anxiety.
Uncertainty. You
Yeah.
mean fear and uncertainty?
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much. Well, fear really is a psychological and emotional response to a real or perceived threat or danger, right? So it's a psychological, that's where it starts at least. Okay? It's psychological, emotional response to something we perceive as a danger or as a threat. And of course, I'll give you examples. This could be, I see fear in two segments, or in 2 types. One is the rational fear. Fear of a real threat and a real danger. You're driving on a road and then here comes a truck colliding with your car. So, I mean, any response, any reflexes are justified. That fear is, I can call it rational. Somebody bigger than your size, threatening to attack you physically. Hey, fear is rational in some to some degree. But there's also what I would say is irrational fear. This is this is usually perceived. This is more or less perceived fear. So as a kid, that's a good example I can give is when we were kids, running home from the neighborhoods. Usually there were trees, tall trees, and because the shadow in the night would almost give you an impression that there's a person standing there.
Sure.
I don't know if you had that experience as a kid. There is you're afraid that there's someone behind you, the shadow, but there is no one there. You know.
Yeah.
So that's unreal danger. Of course, it can be real in some situations, but in most cases, it was just imagined danger. Another one that even adult people have is this thing you hear, agoraphobia. Fear of of big places, claustrophobia, fear of small places. Somebody says, I'm afraid of heights, or I'm afraid of water, I'm afraid of small places. I don't know if there's anyone who's been killed by small places, or small rooms or big rooms. So that's more, so fear can be categorized. And again, this is really on more or less the light superficial level. And of course, we can dive in deeper. And then maybe I can talk about the different fears, like the fear of failure. That's the most common one.
Yeah.
Fear of failure is one that all of us have encountered because starting something new that no one else has started, or rather something no one else in your surrounding has started.
This is where I was going to take me on this question. Like in your view, why people fear, or in some scenarios, you find that some people fear while they are going to take some decisions in their lives.
I think it's a combined number of phobias, rather, or fears. One is I'll place them in two. One is the fear of failure, right? The fear of failure. They're afraid, what if I make this decision and it turns out to be the wrong one? And people laugh at me. What if I go propose to this person and they reject me? And I'm embarrassed, okay? So there's fear of failure, fear of rejection. There is also fear of uncertainty. What guarantees there that the decision I'm going to make is actually going to bear any fruit? So you realize that this fear really, most cases, it's you protecting yourself psychologically. It's really you afraid of what if something goes wrong. But we forget to think about the other side. What if something goes right? Because...
so it's in accordance of pessimism or...
Right, pessimism. And again, certain personalities are more prone to certain fears. So we all have different personalities. These are natural things, natural dispositions, how we are born, And usually it takes a lot of discipline and growth to kind of work around your personality to build strength, to at least to overcome those fears. But back to why people are afraid of making important decisions. There's usually, small decisions usually, no one sweats those. Yeah. It's usually big decisions, okay? Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, starting a business. I don't know, maybe... Exactly,
that's what most people are fearing
to
do.
And so I know, I've faced the same fear. I faced the same fear. What if I fail? What if I lose all the money? And I've saved this money. I borrowed some of this money. Then what happens? Am I going to lose this house? Am I going to lose this piece of land? Am I going to be homeless on the street? Those are fearful things.
But it's in accordance to their experience, to
right,
life experience.
Life experiences, and then our programming from childhood.
Yeah.
Yes, our programming for childhood. Why? Because a lot of families, again, things are changing. I'm talking about old families. Old families where they went through a lot of struggle, especially those that lived as refugees outside of Rwanda. They went through a lot of struggle. So if you tried anything outside of the ordinary, the response was, who do you think you are? Your father was never able to do this. Your grandfather was never able to do this.
So
Who are you? Who are you? What makes you think you're so special that you can do this? But you realize that that's the exact same programming that trapped your grandfather.
It's kind of mindset.
Exactly. Your grandfather suffered from the same mindset. Your father inherited it from him because he kept listening to your grandfather. And eventually now, it's your turn to carry the cross of the family.
It's a heredity thing.
It's an inherited fear, right? But you really don't need that fear, because I'll tell you the truth. There is always someone to break that generational curse that people call generational curse. You know, there is always that first person to build a home. There's always that first person to buy a car. There's always that first person to start a company. You know, there's always that first person in the family to marry and stay married, okay, and not break up, you know, the family. And there's always a first person who is going to raise no more kids.
Sure.
So
that person, he is the person who is going to open the doors for the family.
Exactly. That's the person. That person becomes almost the Messiah, but let me know. Messiah is too strong a word. Let me use that person becomes like, he becomes a savior.
Yeah.
Everyone says, well,
it's kind of being a savior in the family, you know.
Says he did it, and I grew up with him. You know, this is my mother's son, or this is my nephew, my cousin. So if he can do it, I know without a doubt, I can do it. Yeah.
So why, in your opinion, why it is important to discuss fear today, like what we are doing to?
Well, the beauty of discussing, or at least talking about fear, is that human beings face most human beings face the same fears.
Sure.
So it brings a lot of consolation, a lot of comfort, a lot of solace to know you're not the weird guy. You're not the only introvert, let's say, on the planet. I'll give you an example. I work with engineers a lot, and then there's a big chunk of engineers that are introverted and very quiet, very brooding, and I discovered that when we were having these team building exercises, when we were sitting down and having discussions, I like to share my failures. I have no problem discussing my successes as well, but I think when I discuss my failures, a lot more people feel drawn to me. Oh wow. He's not this high and mighty guy.
He also passed through this.
Right, So he's also normal.
He's a normal person.
He's a normal guy. He's a normal guy. So, and it creates a lot of, first and foremost, they feel like, okay, if he could overcome that, if he could lose a property in an investment deal, if he could make a sick, crazy business decision and survive it, I can learn from him, okay? It's possible that maybe the mistakes that I've made in the past, I can also overcome them. And then, of course, there is sharing of experience. There is opportunity to learn and grow. There's opportunity to support each other, opportunity for mentorship and coaching. Sure. And usually also, I think, even emotional release. Because fear is really this thing that can almost hold you prison. And it wants to steal your potential.
Then, John Makala, this it's a curious question. Did you what's your personal experience of fear?
With fear, oh my God! I think we would need a whole day for that.
Did you? Did you experience a lot?
Of course. I think
I can see you are giant man.
Yeah,
you can't.
Well, listen. I think, to be honest. It would take us a whole day, to be honest, to talk about all the fears that I've faced.
Do you also fear?
Of course.
Really?
Absolutely. So, but again, for me now, what I've learned was across the years, I discovered which fears held me the most. Some people are afraid of this. I'll give an example. What's very strange about life is that sometimes the worst fears you have are usually in the area of where you are most talented. In the area where you have the most potential. I'll give an example. I remember there was a time I was very reluctant to speak in public. Right? Public speaking is something a lot of people are afraid of.
Most
people are afraid of.
I know.
Right? So, what is very strange is that I don't know where I developed this. Okay, you start growing and you rationalize a lot of things, and I started doing what? I started asking all kinds of questions. What if I go there and I fail? What if I started becoming too concerned about all the different minute details? And then I met, of course, I was in West Africa many years ago. I got this opportunity to speak in public.
Sure.
I would get up there with my nerves on. Sometimes I would completely forget what I was going to talk about. Or I would start here and end up in a completely different direction. Because I was constantly worrying about what do they think about me? Are they going to like me? Are they going to like what I say? Yeah. Am I looking like, do I look like what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So I realized that I was
those intrapersonal conflicts,
right. And I realized I was so concerned about what others thought about me, I forgot I'm just there as a servant. I'm just there to serve.
Sure.
I'm not here for them to serve me. I'm here just a servant. Yeah. I need to worry more about their needs. I need to worry more. That's what I need to concern myself more. What do they need? What do they want to learn? How can I help them the most? In what area can I add value the most? Okay? Be concerned more about helping these people rather than performing, rather than trying to impress people. Sure. And usually you would easily overcome your fears of public speaking.
Yeah, sure. I think regarding to your experience, I think that time you was young.
I was very young.
Yeah.
I was, I think, late teens, early 20s. So yeah, I was pretty young.
Like, what do young people generally nowadays fear?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. I think if you talk about fear, of course, there are some of the old reasons, like, of course, programming from their parents. Parents who have seen the tough times the country has been through. I mean, people who've been through their own tough times. Yeah. Okay, that's something we cannot minimize. It's something very powerful.
You think those people who lived in those tough times do not fear?
No. What I'm saying is the tough times they went through in the refugee camps and all those places, they build certain complexes, certain fears of, I'm not as adequate as others, that imposter syndrome. I'm not as good as others, okay? They were born in a city. They were born in a rich family, in a highly educated family. Do it. Okay? They have at least somewhere to start from. Where can I start from? That kind of mentality. So the fear can come from those. If you have parents who suffered from that, listening to that negative chatter, listening to that negative dialogue, can, of course, create some programming into your mind. You can start believing those things. But something else that I think is really interesting. These days, there's a lot of fake going on. We have, everything is visual.
Yeah.
I'm talking about social media. We're talking about, these days, you can go to a nice hotel.
Yeah, sure.
Take pictures. All right? Look like a billionaire, and you don't have 10,000 in your bank account. That's an exact example.
Yeah.
It's very easy to
fake it. And it really
happens. And that can intimidate somebody, a young person.
Yeah.
These filters that we see on social media that make people look like incredible
angels.
They look like models, okay? They look like,
angels.
Angels, like Victoria's Secret models, whatever. But then these people who are so curated, so prepped and everything. There is a young lady, a young girl who is somewhere in Chahafi, who looks at them, thinks, oh man, these people are so gifted. They are so tall. They are so handsome. They are so beautiful. Huh? They deserve this. They feel like they are not worthy.
And even that time, she can start to think the way she can do to be like them.
Exactly. So now, what happens is, instead of actually going
there are
out
both
there,
two ways. There can be bad way and the good way.
I understand what you're saying. I totally
Then
understand what you're saying.
how can that impact that person from Jahaf, that girl from, like you said?
So it's usually what happens is, instead of building the right qualities, the right skills, because see, I'll give you this. Becoming a great public speaker it means you have to spend some time building certain skills, practicing. It takes time. And it takes that boldness, that courage. It takes, of course, a group or a community of people to cheer you on and support you as you take on these risks. However, when people just look on social media and they want to copy what they see on social media, in order to acquire the fame, the clout, the influence, without doing the actual work behind, you end up, these people, they end up not having what they're looking for. You have nice looking pictures.
Sure.
But there is no growth. There is no growth. As a person, you don't grow. You don't push yourself through discipline that is required. You don't push yourself to learn the skills, the necessary skills that you need in order to be successful and be influential. Because the shortcuts, social media is a great place to easily get there, okay? But you should be willing to put in the work. So what am I trying to say here? Social media is not a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing depending on how it's used.
Yeah.
I think we need to use social media to talk about the actual work, the actual character that is needed and required in order to become successful. So that people don't just see curated pictures and feel like, oh, I can get there overnight, okay? Oh, all I need to do is go to Serena Hotel, I won't buy anything, look nice,
snaps,
right?
you know?
And put them on Instagram and look like a success. So yeah, that's basically a long way around, but I was trying to really answer the question.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then how would you relate fear to leading a purposeful and addiction-free life?
Thank you so much. So I understand, okay? I understand that addiction is a very dangerous, it's a very difficult thing to actually get over, okay? But understand that the fear you feel, if you're addicted to anything, if you're addicted to alcohol, I've had loved ones in my family addicted to alcohol, okay? And I hope I'm audible.
Wow.
Yeah. Addicted to alcohol, addicted to marijuana, addicted to all those different things. So there is nothing wrong in seeking help. We are here as a community. I'm talking about Purpose Rwanda. And there is nothing more hurting, nothing that would break my heart than to see somebody struggling with their addiction until they lose everything. Well, you really don't lose your potential. Your potential is still there, trapped in you. But they lose a lot of opportunities. Sometimes they lose their home, they lose their marriage. Sometimes they lose their career. They lose their dreams in the process of addiction. Most times. So understand that Purpose Rwanda, the calling of Purpose Rwanda is really to support you through this journey. It's an individualized journey. It's a caring, very supportive community. And of course, they have experts, people who are trained, who know what they do. And we have a lot of people. There are a lot of people who are successful out there who went through the same program, and today they are standing as models in the society. Yeah. Yeah.
What could be your advice to people who fear to that extent they give up in their lives? Like, you know, those people who who reach to that extent, we can't say that they are purposeful, you know?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There is anyone that you admire, that I admire, anyone who's been successful at anything, whether it's football, whether it's politics, whether it's music, whether it's business and entrepreneurship. No one we know that has been successful at anything. In fact, even your parents, Before parents come together, there's a lot of fear. You don't know if this person is going to be the right person. So fear is part of everyday life. I would say this, you are not alone. But fear is a thief. Fear wants to steal your time. It wants to steal your potential. It wants to steal your talent. It wants you to go to the grave with everything that God has given you. Everything you've brought to this planet. So I want to encourage you. Join the group of champions like my friend here, Adams, like myself, and of course, wonderful brothers at Purpose Rwanda, who are willing to support you, who are willing to give you advice, who are going to connect you to the different networks you need to be connected to grow, to learn, and to become all that God has created you to become.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, this marks the end of today's episode of Purpose Rwanda show here at KC2. Thank you, Jean Makara.
Thank you so much
for honoring our invitation.
Thank you so much. It's always a joy, it's always a pleasure, and I appreciate you having me here on your platform. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so we look forward for having you next time.
Anytime.
Yeah. Until next, I'm Adams Quizzer. As always, this is Purpose Rwanda on KC2.